right, fantastic. Again, welcome to everyone. I see a lot of people from a lot of places. Please, if you haven't already, put your name, your organization, your location in the chat. This is really, really fantastic to see. I also want to, before we get started, let people know that there's language interpretation available. And yeah, this is really remarkable to see all of the people from all across the country, from labor, from community, from all over. Thank you for joining us today. I think we've got information on the interpretation that we can put up on the screen to share with everybody. I'll introduce myself. My name is Alex Hahn. I live in Chicago, Illinois. Here's the interpretation. Instructions. Again, if you haven't introduced yourself, please put your name, your location, your organization in the chat, if that's applicable. My name is Alex Hahn. I am the executive director of In These Times magazine, and I'm based in Chicago, Illinois. And I am really excited to be here with all of you. And I'm going to pass it over actually to our interpreters right now, to our fantastic interpreter team.
Thank you so much, Alex. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So how you were sharing, Alex, this will be a bilingual space. It will be primarily in English. However, we have simultaneous interpretation into Spanish. So I will give the instructions in case anyone wants to listen in Spanish. Para conectarse a la interpretación, podemos ver ahora la pantalla. Para activar la interpretación de Zoom, hagan clic en el globo terráqueo que dice interpretación en la parte inferior a la derecha de su pantalla y elijan el idioma, en este caso si quieren escuchar en español. Luego van a escuchar todo en español. Si están conectándose desde un teléfono móvil, esto está ubicado abajo a la derecha. Toquen los 3 puntos en la esquina inferior a la derecha en donde dice más o more. Y luego toquen interpretación de idiomas y luego seleccionen español. Por último, toquen done, arriba a la derecha. Si tienen algunos problemas, déjennos saber por el chat. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Alex. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And we are going to get started. I want to welcome everyone here. We know it's a challenging moment, but it's really great to be here among friends, fellow troublemakers, old and new. I think that I don't have to tell anyone here the stakes of what is happening now. The reason you're on this call, the reason you're on this live stream is because you understand what's at stake at this moment, but you're taking action and showing leadership. We have hundreds of people here who are working with thousands more, working to transform fear into hope and resistance into forward motion. I also want to acknowledge that we haven't seen one another in a while. As May Day Strong, we worked together to help amplify the No Kings efforts in June. We've been supporting others at the Fight Back table and beyond who are battling a federal budget that's trying to slash Medicaid, K-12 education, higher education, federal workers, food stamps for children and families in order to give more of our money to billionaires. So I want to give a shout out to May Day Strong for leading the largest amount, I think over 1,000 May Day actions around the country. I want to give a shout out to No Kings and the organizers who brought out millions on June 14th. We clearly need to keep building to stop the resident in the White House from putting all of us in harm's way and continuing the work that they're doing. I want to give a shout out as well to elected officials and union leaders like David Huerta from SEIU, like Senator Alex Padilla, New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, and all of the immigrant rights organizers and activists who are defending our neighbors against the onslaught of raids that are picking on moms and dads, high school graduates, rather than the seasoned criminals that exist in their imagination. I also want to give a shout out to the civil rights organizations, the Black leaders who are preparing for a day of good trouble in John Lewis's memory on July 17th, and who, along with leaders like Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, are going after Target and other corporations for their anti-DEI policies. Um, so thank you all. Welcome to this call. Again, if you're just joining, please put your name, your location, your organization in the chat. We do have a special guest to start out our call. We have Senator Alex Padilla himself here with us today to talk about his own experience with the Trump administration and what we all need to be organizing for right now. Senator Padilla, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Alex, and thank you to Mayday Strong and to the Chicago Teachers Union and to everybody who's on this call, everybody who's on this Zoom, because collectively, I know we stand together to say that we refuse to allow Donald Trump to sell out our country to the highest bidder. There's so much wrong that's going on with this administration, and together with allies in Congress, but with advocates and organizers around the country, we're going to keep pushing back because we know, as you said, Alex, there's just so much going on, not just around the country, around the world, but especially in the Capitol this week, as Republicans are trying to shove through their budget bill, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But time is of the essence. May Day is behind us. The No King's Day, the first round anyway, is behind us. Labor Day is still ahead of us, but we can't slow down. We have to keep organizing. We have to keep standing up and speaking up because we're at a critical moment for the country. Now, before I go on, I saw the translation services announcements. I'd like to take just a moment to greet the people participating who prefer to speak Spanish. Para los que están escuchando, que prefieren hablar español, escuchar en español, yo soy el senador Alex Padilla del estado de California y les quiero dar las gracias por participar en esta sesión, pero más que eso, por su compromiso al sueño americano, a los valores de este país y a la lucha en cual estamos unidos en contra de las amenazas de esta administración, porque estamos tratando de proteger no solo el sueño americano, pero las oportunidades claves para nuestras familias y nuestras comunidades, y no sería posible sin su apoyo y su involucración. And with that being said, again, recognizing that we're at a critical moment in our nation's history, just look back at the last few months. It seems like it's been years since Donald Trump was back in the White House. It's only been about 5 months, but we've seen a corrupt administration blatantly trying to help the most wealthy in America, and at the same time, making it harder for working families to get ahead. We've seen a failed tariff war, which has done nothing but to raise costs on working families. We've seen attempts at freezing federal funding in so many areas, cutting federal funding in other areas. I'm talking about things like our basic infrastructure, mental health programs, education. Speaking of education, we have a president eliminating the Department of Education. I mean, my parents, when they came from Mexico, their dream was that their children would get a chance at a good education. This administration is doing the opposite of that. And of course, not just in Los Angeles, but especially in Los Angeles, my hometown, we're seeing aggressive workplace raids that target hard-working immigrant families, whether it's in the workplace, in schools, in houses of worship. We've seen ICE agents chasing farm workers in the fields in Ventura County. It's cruelty, it's extremism, it's overreach. And in addition to all that, we know that we have this budget fight in Congress right now. The big bullshit bill is what I call it, is now in the United States Senate. And they're trying to not just cut access to healthcare, cut nutrition assistance programs. They say they're doing this because we have to get the nation's debt under control. But the bill actually makes the debt problem worse. So how does that happen? If you're cutting this, cutting that, how do you make the debt worse? Because their cuts that they're proposing are only to underwrite even more tax breaks for billionaires. It couldn't be further from what's in the best interest of the working class and the middle class. That's what we're up against. And just to make it very real for what it could mean for families, the top 0.1%, right? The richest of the richest in America are going to see a tax breaks of $250,000 a year if this goes through, while most working households will see an increase in what they owe. Their income will fall over $1,500 a year. And this is in addition to the $2,000 a year that we're all paying more because of the Trump tariffs. So the pain is real. We're all going to feel it if this is successful. So that's why the fight is so important. But I won't go through the laundry list of some of the other cuts. I mentioned healthcare. I mentioned nutrition assistance programs for seniors, for children. It's bad policy. It's cruel, is what it is. And we're not going to stand for it. In California, we also pride ourselves in being leaders in environmental protection for the sake of public health, not just the environment. And that's another item that's a target of the Republicans in Congress. So, it's just offensive to think that in 2017, Republicans found the money, I guess, to provide billionaire tax breaks, but a couple years later, it hasn't panned out the way they thought. It hasn't been more revenues for the federal government because of economic growth. And now they say there's not enough money for education, for healthcare programs, and all the things that our country needs. It's wrong. It's wrong on so many levels. And so, I'm fighting. Count on me and my Democratic colleagues in the Senate to keep fighting. But I know that we can't do it alone. We need to keep the pressure on Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House of Representatives, and to let all of our friends, all of our families, all of our coworkers, all of our neighbors know what's really going on. So yes, I'm thanking you all for speaking up and standing up, and ask you to keep doing it. Speaking of speaking up, I am hoping that most of you, maybe all of you, saw what happened to me a couple of weeks ago when I tried to speak up, to directly ask a question to the Secretary of Homeland Security about the militarization of Los Angeles. That's what they're doing in my hometown. They federalized the National Guard, they've sent in the Marines, an increasingly aggressive and cruel what they call immigration enforcement actions. We've known before anecdotally, and now we know the data. More than 90% of people that have been detained since October, many deported without due process, have no serious criminal convictions. So who is it that's been the victims of these aggressive raids? It's people like my dad. My dad worked in a kitchen for 40 years as a cook. It's been farm workers, it's been car wash workers, it's been construction workers, it's been a lot of the workers that in the first Trump administration, when COVID first started, all these workers were deemed essential for our country and for the economy. And now they're the ones being targeted by these immigration raids. So it's morally wrong. It's going to hurt us economically even more when there's not enough workers to keep the economy going. So I just had to share that with you because I know that we are going through a lot. I know that it is intense. It can feel overwhelming at times. It can be scary at times. But we need to stay united. That's where our strength and our power is. When we stay united, we all speak up. And I'll just leave you with this. Because again, I know most of you saw what happened to me. If that's how this administration is scared of one senator wanting to ask a question, imagine what they'll feel when millions of people across the country continue to speak up, to stand up, to march, to rally and to demand no cuts to the American dream, investments in our communities. Let's do what's right. I know we can do it. We're going to do it together. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Senator Padilla. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you are doing and really showing leadership in the U.S. Senate. We have seen more resistance to these ICE raids. We've seen labor leaders like SEIU's California President David Huerta being assaulted by ICE agents and then being charged with ridiculous, trumped up crimes in the aftermath of that. Next, we're going to hear from a labor leader in the Bay Area who's been on the front lines of union advocacy, not just for workers, but for students and communities in K-12 education and in immigrant rights. Frank Lara is the Vice President of United Educators San Francisco. Frank, please tell us more about why coming together around defending our immigrant and union siblings is so key right now.
Buenas noches, buenas tardes. Thank you again so much. And thank you, Senator Padilla, for your words and much respect and admiration for being our first Latino senator out of California, a state that for well over a decade has had the Latino population be the majority of the population. And it is of special importance that you stood up and defended our people. Thanks also to the organizers for inviting our union, the United Educators of San Francisco. We're a union of over 6,000 members, representing classified, certificated members, substitutes, nurses, psychologists, counselors, and social workers. I especially want to thank and pay my respects to the Chicago Teachers Union. It is an honor to share a space with the union that UESF has looked up to and aspired to become. It takes a lot of organizing and capacity to not only have a mayor elected from your ranks, win a historic labor agreement that will transform education, and also lead the effort to bring together unions and social justice movements in this room across the country. And finally, what I do want to start with is paying my respect to the people of Los Angeles, whose courage and fight back forced the awakening of many who were standing on the sidelines. It's as the saying goes, there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. This past month in California, the real threat of rising fascism was laid bare in the streets of Los Angeles. While deportations and raids have occurred since El Trompas was inaugurated, it wasn't until the month of June that we saw it on full display of how the repressive federal forces can continue terrorizing our communities and indiscriminately kidnapping people. The federal government's push for the National Guard to repress what had been peaceful protests shook our states and the country. For the labor movement, the fight shook us to the core when one of our union brothers, the president of the largest union of California, David Guerra, simply was observing a raid and was arrested and brutally beaten. This immediately set off all unions who responded with statements of solidarity. And while the mainstream media instinctively tried to justify the repression of people fighting back against the illegal seizure of innocent civilians by demonizing them, the people knew better. I was in downtown Los Angeles after David Guerra was arrested, along with hundreds of other representatives of the California Teachers Association at our quarterly state council meeting. I was asked to speak at one of the rallies, and it was clear that the vast majority of people were not going to let ICE nor the federal government continue to violate basic human rights. Thousands and thousands of people could be seen joining the march as well as the feeder marches. Many more drove by their cars, honking in support and bringing their flags and families to witness the power of the people. This was on a Sunday. The very next day, on a Monday in San Francisco, a solidarity march with the people of Los Angeles brought 10,000 people to the streets. And this was organized by the same forces that had been organizing during the May Day actions. So you can see that as what we're doing in this group is building upon actions so that we can build our capacity to fight back. The overwhelming support of the people, despite the repression, shows that in fact, we are the majority being undermined by a dwindling faction of billionaires that seek to only use more repressive and authoritarian tactics to keep themselves in power. And it was made even more clear, thanks to the organizers from the No King's Day actions that were held across the country. In San Francisco alone, we had over 100,000 people flood our city. The last time we had such an action was in 2017 during the first Trump administration when the women's marches took over the country. People are making the connections in the street, whether it was addressing the fall of democracy, the attack on immigrant communities, the theft of basic social services, the ongoing genocide, and never-ending wars. People use the day to make it clear that we reject the billionaires' agenda and are ready to fight back. Since then, not only Los Angeles, but around the country, in San Francisco, folks continue making calls to defend families from being deported, from being terrorized, shutting down ICE buildings. And it's only continuing to organize and fight stronger and in a more organized way. It's obvious that people are ready to fight back. And for us in unions, community organizations, or collective spaces, we must use the opportunity to build and draw in as many people as possible to fight in an organized way. And this way, we must learn the lessons of the past and offer a genuinely independent path, one that centers the demands uniting millions in the street, the demand of amnesty and full legalization for all, the end to all wars, the fully funding of social services like healthcare, education, Social Security, and Medicare, the full implementation of civil rights that protects women's rights to choose, grants full legal rights and protections for our LGBTQ siblings. All of these demands are already held strongly by the people coming out to the streets, and it unites us. And we must raise those demands as beacons to draw in and organize our class. The people are ready. It was the people who put their body on the line and forced politicians to take action. We must be with the people and find inspiration in their courage. And as we stood in the brink of a major global conflict this past week, we also witnessed the primary election victory of a genuinely independent candidate of 33 years old in New York City. Even in the darkest hour, there can be hope in the ability for people to resist. We must hold on to this hope and find inspiration in the resistance seen in California and in Los Angeles. We must connect the spirit of that resistance to the type of organizing done by the trailblazing unions like the CTU. And we can offer a different path forward. The path has been laid out for us. It is up to us to walk it. As the president of CTU, Stacy Davis says, you have to be about that life. Commit to that life, and let us fight together for a better future.
Thank you so much, Frank. That was a fantastic framing of the heightened stakes we're organizing under. And it is always welcome to see the next generation of fighters join us here too. It's why we believe the combination of the labor movement, social justice coalition, civil rights campaigners, immigrant rights activists, and all of these efforts for transformation need to come into closer alignment to bring more people into connection and then into shared action. We now have over 750 fighters, troublemakers, and organizers on this call. It's really fantastic to see how this is growing. Next, to tell us more about how Labor Day this year, Senator Padilla mentioned, will have to be different to meet the moment. I'm really happy to bring up Bob Reiter, the president of the Chicago Federation of Labor, the cradle of the labor movement in the United States, and the Federation of Labor that I was a delegate of at one point. Bob, welcome, and please share with us about Labor Day and what's happening in the build-up to Labor Day.
Thanks, Alex. So Alex said, my name is Bob Reiter. I'm president of the Chicago Federation of Labor and a union organizer from Chicago, Illinois. And we talk about being the hometown of the American labor movement. And that all started in the 1880s. In the 1880s, that's when they were throwing people like us in jail. They were putting us on trial and taking some of us to the gallows to pay the price for advocating for working people. Now, what we're seeing today is a parallel to what we saw in the 1800s, right? We're seeing union leaders being detained. We're seeing U.S. senators who are speaking for the common good being detained, and we're seeing union workers being unfairly, unjustly abducted and sent to foreign countries to be put in jail and persecuted. What I will tell you is that when we meet this moment, it's going to be about having our voice heard. And what better time to have our voice heard than on Labor Day? So we will be doing a lot of things around Labor Day this year, including bringing together our community. And when I talk about community, in places where where unions thrive, and in places where unions, are 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 where the let's say in a place where there's only one union in the town, right? A factory union, or in a place like Chicago where we have 300 different local unions. It doesn't matter. We are the community. We are the community. And we need to get our friends, get our allies, and we need to tell this country that we are standing up for ourselves and we're standing up for them. You know, guys like Donald Trump he's like the robber barons of the 1800s, right? We call them oligarchs now. They were robber barons back then. And when we strike a chord this Labor Day and sing in unison, we're going to be doing it with microphones, megaphones, and we're going to be yelling in the streets that we will not take this fight sitting down. We're going to be standing up for ourselves. We're going to tell them hands off. We're going to tell them no kings. We're going to tell them that labor is here and is present. So I'm hoping that we all join together this Labor Day, and we tell Donald Trump, we tell all of the people who want to take from our immigrant communities, from our LGBTQ plus communities, from everyone who's being othered in this moment, that we are the labor movement and we stand for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob, and thank you for your leadership and what you've done, over these last several months and over the years. We want to move into a quick poll, and we can put that up on the screen. We want to see how many of the people who are on this Zoom are willing to help organize the biggest, broadest, and most powerful set of coordinated Labor Day actions in the nation's history in your own city or town. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. I'm seeing a super majority yeses. Those numbers keep going up. I also want to say, I know I've seen a lot of people in the chat talk about different actions and dates moving forward. We have some more information as we move through the Zoom about other actions and activities through the summer, but really want to think about connecting May Day and Labor Day in a powerful way. So I see we've got a pretty solid yes vote on the poll. How many of you are willing to help organize to Labor Day? And I think we can make this the biggest and clearest message on Labor Day for workers and communities that we can have. So thank you so much. We'll have plenty of opportunities following this to plug in, and later we'll be giving people an opportunity to sign up to make sure that you stay informed and plugged into the organizing. So thank you, everybody. And on Labor Day, we are not just doing barbecues and drinking beer. It looks like at least 57% of us are definitively going to be helping to organize Labor Day actions. And another 35% of us are going to be our maybes. And so a lot of us are going to be working together toward Labor Day. But we're going to be fighting against the bosses and the billionaires that are trying to break our connections and our solidarity. Who are they? And how are they backing MAGA authoritarianism and the forces of repression right now? To tell us more, we are going to be joined by Saqib Bhatti from Bargaining for the Common Good. Saqib?
Good evening, everyone. It's so good to be here with all of you tonight. Thanks, Alex. Um, we've been organizing all year to stop the billionaire power grab, and it's working, right? Last month, we beat back the richest man in the history of the world. Elon Musk thought he could remake the federal government in his image, but we sent him packing, right? The Tesla takedown campaign held thousands of actions at Tesla showrooms across the country. Sales of Teslas plummeted. Dog poop smearings of Tesla skyrocketed, right? And workers across the country started demanding that their pension funds stop giving Musk their money. All of this led to two big developments. One, Trump came to view Musk as a political liability. And secondly, Musk came to view his extracurricular activities at Doge as a financial liability for his businesses. We know that Musk and Trump are beefing, but Musk still remains one of the most powerful and wealthiest people in the world. But we also know that it's not just Musk, right? Tech billionaires like Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Antonio Gracias, and Joe Gebbia are also major players behind the authoritarian agenda. Peter Thiel heads up Palantir, which specializes in data crunching for evil, right? That's the simplest way to describe it. Palantir is a key cog in ICE's deportation machine. They have a contract with ICE to target and surveil migrants. Uh, they use this data. ICE uses this data from Palantir to help with immigration raids, right? Palantir's AI also powers Israeli drones that are carrying out the genocide in the West Bank. Palantir, like I said, data for evil. That is what they do. And Peter Thiel himself, he's almost a cartoonish level of evil, right? He actually founded a company that tried to reverse aging by giving wealthy seniors blood transfusions from poor young people. Like I kid you not, this was an actual business that he started, right? And he, wrote an op-ed for the Cato Institute in which he said, like, I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible. And this part is super important. Peter Thiel is JD Vance's sugar daddy, right? Thiel bought Vance's Senate seat in Ohio in 2022, lifting him out of relative obscurity and turning him into a political heavyweight overnight. Um, Thiel is just as important to the authoritarian agenda as Musk, even though he may be less well known. And as we're thinking about Labor Day actions, we should seek out opportunities to hit up the offices of Thiel's various companies. Antonio Gracias leads up Doge's immigration task force and is leading Doge's attacks on Social Security. His financial firm, Valor Equity Partners, gets tons of pension fund money. He sits on the board of directors of Tesla and the board of trustees of the University of Chicago. And his office is actually located right down the street from the CTU office where we'll be gathering next month. So, hey, maybe we can, hit him up. But we also need to target him on Labor Day. Joe Gebbia is the co-founder of Airbnb, a Tesla board member and a close friend of Elon Musk. He's also part of the leadership circle of Doge, and he's widely viewed as Musk's successor in leading Doge. The other thing that just sort of saw some news that came out today that there's some talk about as hotels are refusing to cooperate with ICE, the Airbnb is letting ICE use homes to as part of the immigration rate. So again, Joe Gebbia, another person that we need to target and take on Labor Day. We also need to continue to build on the momentum of the Target boycott by Black civil rights organizations by targeting Target on Labor Day, right? We know that the boycotts had a big impact on them, and they have locations everywhere across the country. And of course, we can't forget about Musk, right? We need more action at Tesla showrooms. T-Mobile has launched a partnership with Musk Starlink. There are T-Mobile storefronts in every city. We should hit up T-Mobile on stores on Labor Day. These tech billionaires think they can impose their will on us, but we're not backing down. On Labor Day and beyond, we're going to hold these assholes accountable. We're going to show them what people power looks like and send a clear message that they can't have peace while they're going around lighting fires in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saqib. There's also a chance to build for and support Solidarity Summer and the work by the Service Employees International Union, a union that is really on the front lines of the struggle to expand and protect democracy in these really perilous times. I want to bring in to talk more about the efforts of SEIU, Barbara Rosenthal, who is the National Organizing Director. Barbara?
Good evening and hello, Alex. It's been a long time. I just want to share my deep appreciation for this entire call, for all the organizers, organizations, partners who are in this fight and struggle with all of us together, as the previous speakers have shared, but also in particular for showing up in force, in deep collaboration and community to support hashtag Free David Huerta and Stop the Raids within, I want to say, 24 hours. And obviously that moment was a moment of incredible solidarity. It was not just about David, it was exactly about what every other speaker has shared. And what I'll share with you today is how we want to continue that ongoing work, as Alex said, in Solidarity Summer, and all the way up through to and through Labor Day. And what I would say before I share what I mean by Solidarity Summer is the following. It's not just a word, it's not a song, it is, solidarity is about action, and it is on us to put solidarity back in solidarity and have action after action, big and small, all the way through, up to and through Labor Day. And so part of what we are committed to, and what SEIU members are committed to, is making sure that we are fighting forward, not just fighting back at every moment. And that means standing for what we all deserve, what every worker, no matter who they are, where they're from, how they are paid, who and how they love, are able to live their full, whole selves, and that is a right, not a privilege of the billionaires. And in that, we are wholly committed to doing everything we can to act in solidarity, to demonstrate what it means that working people are the moral center of this country, and that we have to demonstrate solidarity across race, identity, and geography at every turn. And that's why the fight to demand the end of, to stop ICE, to end the raids, to protect immigrants and immigrant communities, to call on the Trump administration to release every unjust detention, and that we call on every elected official to say no to this awful bill that is funding the militarization of our communities, the ending of our healthcare, our values, our rights, and all of the other things that people have named. And so in doing so, we have two things we're moving. One of which is that 600 of SEIU members have boarded or are boarding buses starting today and tomorrow, and heading on a justice journey to Louisiana to shine a light on the detention, on the unjust detention of immigrants, of Black and Brown communities, of immigrants of all races. And the buses are landing in Louisiana. They're meeting with local partners, faith leaders, again, to make sure that we are continuously shining a light on what the Trump administration is doing. And it is not just one bus journey. It is the beginning. It is in the middle of all the fights that all of us have been a part of. And what we are offering for people to do as we think about this call and the importance of imagining a Labor Day that looks like no other, is these acts of solidarity happening all throughout the summer. And we have, what we're hoping for is that people can join us, even if you can't join us in Louisiana, that you can join the journey by taking actions to defend your neighbors, family members, coworkers who are being attacked by ICE, and take action on the 1st of July by participating in small actions at Home Depots, which have been a target of ICE or other similar places, and doing small leafletings or large, however you choose, on July 1st, in the same way that people turned out to free David and end the raids, to continue that momentum and mobilization as we move forward. So I would close by, I just again would say, this is a moment for incredible courage, and for the deep importance of us across the labor movement, standing for every single working person and being very explicit about building cross-racial solidarity and demonstrating at all times what that means. We all know that the Trump administration uses race to divide us. It is on us to not just say it in words, but to do it with action and immense amounts of solidarity. So deep appreciation for this body, for me being able to see Alex Hahn after I don't know how many years, for the courage and the discipline and the creativity and the intention of making a Labor Day, but an entire summer be about what is right and what we stand for and what we hope for, not just what we're fighting against. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you so much, Barbara. And obviously, it's great to see you too, and great to see over 700 people on this call. We're going to be giving information on how to plug in and connect. And we have a lot of great other speakers on deck for this next 20 minutes. So I want to encourage you to stay with us. Another important effort with a day of action coming up soon is the effort to defend voting rights. It's not just to preserve our democratic values, not just to preserve the hard-fought gains of the civil rights movement, but to address the current system that disenfranchises people, whether through gerrymandering, the Electoral College, unjust ID requirements, so many different things that are disenfranchising our people. It's why we celebrate the late, great John Lewis, and why we're celebrating him on July 17th. And so here to talk to us about that is Barbara Arnwine and Daryl Jones from the Transformative Justice Coalition. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's here tonight. And thank you for everyone who's been in these streets making sure that our Constitution is upheld and fighting against this wannabe dictator and making sure that all of our rights are protected. I am speaking to you from New York City. I'm at the train station, but we do work wherever we are, right? We know that our work is where we have to be. July 17th, let's all get into good trouble, necessary trouble. We want to be the good troublemakers of our nation on July 17th. Daryl Jones is going to help do this presentation, but I want to make sure that everybody knows that good trouble lives on, that we want you to host an event, become a partner, do everything you can to volunteer to support these events. Already, over close to 600 events have been submitted to be approved. We've already approved almost 500 events, and people are ready. So I'm going to let, because of the noise of the station, I'm going to let you, Daryl, pick up and tell people about how they can get into good trouble on July 17th.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara. It's always so great to follow you. It's so great to be here with everyone to present about the John Lewis National Day of Action. And as Barbara's indicated, we encourage you to go to goodtroubleliveson.org, goodtroubleliveson.org, and you'll find out about all the activations that are going on all around the country. And you can sign up through Mobilize to participate. You can host an action. The concept is this. What John Lewis stood for was the idea of us becoming involved in our democracy. We do this on July 17th because July 17th is the day that John Lewis transitioned and passed away. And although he passed away on July 17th, the family of John Lewis asked us to remember him not by some sad ceremony or a memorial service, but by picking up the baton of his legacy of pushing forward for an inclusive democracy and moving it forward. So this will be the 5th year we've done the John Lewis National Day of Action, Good Trouble Lives On. We encourage you to stand as John Lewis stood, stand in his legacy, stand in a legacy of resistance to authoritarianism, stand in a legacy of resistance against the suppression of voting rights, against the suppression of reproductive freedom, stand in favor of democracy. This is what John Lewis would have done. This is this opportunity. We encourage you to go to goodtroubleliveson.org and join us in the streets. As we like to say, get off the sidewalks, get into the streets, and let's get in some good trouble together, folks. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Barbara and Daryl. Again, that is goodtroubleliveson.org to sign up for the July 17th Good Trouble Actions in John Lewis's memory. Um, Next, we are going to move in before we get to the next set of speakers, we're going to move into some more information on what's coming up. We're going to be sharing links in the chat um, to be able to sign up to take action on Labor Day, to take action on Solidarity Summer, and what Barbara Rosenthal spoke about SEIU taking the lead on. Want to remind everyone again, goodtroubleliveson.org is the place to sign up for July 17th. There is so much happening. It's so exciting, really, to see the growth of this movement, and it is so exciting to see what's possible between here and Labor Day. So we want to drop those links in the chat. We're going to have instructions for signing up for Labor Day actions, for Solidarity Summer. And again, please go to goodtroubleliveson.org. As we get that put into the chat, we're going to move into our next speaker. We get to hear from a real organizer and movement builder in the Black radical tradition, M. Adams from the Movement for Black Lives, who is here to talk to us about why we're in the midst of a movement moment that has to center Black lives, fight for immigrant and trans rights, and resist white supremacy. And that over these summer months leading into Labor Day, we have a real opportunity to unite our forces in defense of our diverse communities. M, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And greetings, comrades. I greet you as comrades because I am coming to you with optimism, seriousness, as well as a revolutionary spirit. And I want to talk to you about revolutionary spirit in both the moment of revolution. Cedric Robinson, an incredible organizer in the Black radical tradition, talked about the ways in which people were suffering, much like we are suffering now. And what he says is this is the inevitable prelude to decisive and enormous change. And that is the thing that is on us now. We are not called upon then to discuss whether we want revolution or not. We have got it. Our problem is how we are coming out of it. And I want to say that again. The question isn't if there is revolution, there is revolution. We've got it. And our enemies have caught this revolution. The far right has caught this revolution. They have been gaining more and more power to position themselves to fundamentally change society. That is the definition of revolution. What's really clear to me is that they haven't done it yet. So we're in this really interesting moment in history where the terms of society are up for negotiation. They have not fully consolidated. They are trying to. Things are unstable. So whether or not we can see this, this is anybody's moment. This is anybody's game right now. And I think we have to be the ones positioned to determine what happens going forward. This moment is going to call us into rigor. Which is about the ability to persist, to complete, to be thorough, and to do a thing and commit to a thing like you give a damn. As folks are agitating us today on this call, this is about a series of actions. This is not about a one moment of demonstration. This is about a continued push to force the new society that we're heading into to go in our direction. It will require discipline. We have to be trained. We're going to have to learn things we didn't have to learn. We're going to have to mature very rapidly to meet this big political moment. We're going to have to skill up, and we're going to have to commit serious time to doing so. This moment is going to call for strategy, which requires study, science, grounded assessments, and serious plans that actually help us change our conditions, like the actions we're talking about and the strategies we're talking about tonight. And more than any of that, it's going to require vision. This is not a moment where we lean into fear. And I know it's really difficult to not lean into fear because so much is happening. This is a moment where we have to be willing to imagine big, to imagine bold, and to think beyond this current moment. a sobering reality is that we got here because the thing right before it led us to it. We cannot wish for the society of 2 years ago, of 3 years ago, of 5 years ago. We have to be willing to imagine something radically different, because here is the truth. Any semblance of transphobia, patriarchy, white supremacy, capitalism are ingredients and recipe for fascism. If you don't get there quickly, you'll get there eventually. And that is what happened in front of us. We cannot allow these systems of oppression to exist. They are incompatible with our visions of freedom and our visions of liberation. And we have to be bold enough, courageous enough to imagine a different world and be willing to stake our very lives on it. And I am saying that to you very seriously and not in a dramatic term. Our lives are at stake. Our enemy is pro-war. They are pro-profit. They are anti-people and anti-planet. We are pro-people, pro-planet, pro-peace, right? These are our enemies. They intend to destroy us, our bodies, our lives, the planet, and we must be clear. And the way that we can ensure that we not only defeat the far right, which is absolutely our objective right now, but the way that we can ensure that we don't wind up in the same situation 50 years later, because what I know to be true is that we, the people, can defeat a thing. I come from a people that have defeated chattel enslavement on this very earth. I come from a people that have defeated Jim Crow as an institution. I come from a people currently battling the prison industrial complex, and we will defeat that. So I am confident in our ability to defeat a thing. What I am agitating and challenging us on is to not only to show up to defeat the thing, but for us to be the ones to fundamentally transform society so that 20 years from now, another generation of us isn't facing fascism again. Again, we cannot look for the world of 5 years ago. That was insufficient. That was anti-worker, anti-woman, anti-queer, and anti-black. In order to get us there, there's a key thing that we have to do. Not only do we have to unite and think about our power together in numbers, but we have to be clear enough to understand that truly our issues are interconnected. When we truly understand that pro-Black liberation is a pro-worker position, that supporting Black liberation is a pro-queer, trans, intersex position, when supporting Black liberation is an anti-ICE, anti-prison industrial complex position, when we actually have a deep interconnected sense of how our issues and our identities are actually truly tied in liberation, then our enemy cannot do what they have been doing, which is divide us, exploit that division, and position themselves to rule over us. And that is exactly what the billionaire class has been doing. So we have to unite, not only just for numbers, but with real clarity around our ideas and the boldness and the willingness to fight for a radically different world. Because if we don't, we are the people with the vision. If we don't, we will wind back up in the same spot. And the planet cannot wait that long. Our people cannot wait that long. And so I invite you all into collective action. I'm going to be out there in several different actions leading up to May Day. I'm going to continue to join the No Kings actions. The movement for Black Lives will continue to organize in the communities, advancing local power and state power where we are. And we will continue to punch up. And that is what we all have to do. We will continue to understand the root problems, not turn on our neighbors, not turn on the everyday person. We're going to punch up. We're going to punch that billionaire class, and we're going to get their asses out the way. We are going to kick fascist ass, and we are going to win because it is what we deserve and what our people deserve. Ashe.
Thank you so much. Amazing and inspiring words. And you know, something that we know in moments like Em is talking about, in moments of both danger and possibility, in moments of democratic backslide that opens up opportunity, there is political violence. Political violence rears its head against those engaged in peaceful activism. We've seen it since Charlottesville, Sharpen, and we saw real tragedy strike recently in Minnesota. To talk about how the movement is responding by doubling down on organizing nonviolent resistance and efforts to build bridges, not walls, we are joined by Monica Byron from Education Minnesota, the statewide union of educators in Minnesota. Thank you.
Good
Monica.
evening, everyone, and thank you. My name is Monica Byron, and I'm the Vice President of Education Minnesota, the labor union of more than 84,000 educators in Minnesota. And on July 1st, I'll become the president of our union. I must admit that I had some mixed feelings about being here, but the energy and all of you here is just invigorating. While I'm proud of our union's work standing up to the billionaires and the MAGA politicians that they pay for, what I'm going to speak to you about next is difficult. Assassinations are now part of the political culture of my state. As you may have heard, a gunman with links to an extremist Christian religious movement dressed up like a police officer and shot 4 people on June 14th. He killed a great champion of working people and public education, House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark. He gravely wounded State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette. They were all Democrats. We don't know precisely what set off the man charged with these crimes, Vance Belter. Maybe that will come out in his trial. But we do know that the police found more than 50 guns in his home. He had 3 AK-47 assault rifles in his SUV on the night the Hortmans were killed. There was also a list in that car with the names of dozens of other Democratic Party officials. The suspect's friends say he voted for Donald Trump. They also say he was passionate about opposing abortion. He wrote online that 30 years ago he graduated from a Bible college in Dallas called Christ for the Nations. In the lobby of that school hangs a quote from its founders. It says, "Everyone ought to pray at least one violent prayer each day." The college put out a statement saying the quote only refers to spiritual warfare, not real world violence. But friends, these were vile acts that cut to the heart of what educators teach about America in classrooms every day. We tell our students that our nation is at its best when we settle our differences with debate and deliberation, compromise and consensus, not through assassinations and fear. But now fear is what we must overcome. And as a labor movement and with our community partners, we must and we will keep organizing. Here in Minnesota and everywhere, we must keep fighting. We must keep standing up for each other and for a better vision of our nation. Threats and intimidation must be met with even greater courage and solidarity. Only through movements like this one can we come together across lines of race and place, generations and gender, everyone coming together to build the critical mass to stop the authoritarian MAGA movement and put our nation on a better path. But friends, we must keep each other safe while we are doing it. When we are on the streets, and we will stay on the streets, and in our neighborhoods, our motto must be, "You watch my back, I'll watch yours. No exceptions." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for those really powerful words. And thank you to the organizers and the movement in Minnesota, which has carried such a burden, especially over this last month and over these last 5 years. As we move forward, we're getting close. We've only got a couple speakers left. Thank you all for hanging with us. We are going to be sharing again information on how to get plugged in before the end of this Zoom. Right now, we do need to understand how cuts to federal services, workers, and Medicaid are imminent, what Senator Padilla talked about at the beginning of this Zoom, and why it's important for us to fight back. We are joined by Elisa Tafty from the Federal Unionist Network. to tell us what they're working on to fight those cuts to healthcare, education, so many critical services, and the attacks on workers and union rights. Welcome, Elisa.
Thank you. So I am Elisa, and I was a federal employee until a few months ago. I had almost 12 years of federal employment, and I was president of my union local, AFGE Local 2211. And as a federal employee, you learn pretty quickly that your goal is to do good work, but to be quiet and keep your head down, because the job is to serve the people and not to promote ourselves. What this means, though, is that the public has really little awareness of what we're doing until something breaks. But the work that the federal workforce does impacts us all day, every day, making sure that the food you feed your children is safe and it won't make them sick, that the vitamins you're taking actually have what they say they have inside and not something dangerous, that the money in your bank is safe, and that the infrastructure that you use to move around your cities and towns stays standing. But the Trump administration, they never hid their plans to destroy the federal government, and they implemented it on day one. And I think you all probably already know everything that they've done, shutting down our foreign aid, shutting down the medical research that each of us rely on to protect ourselves and our family's health, taking away our cutting agencies that offer protections and enforce the regulations that keep our families safe. I could take up this entire call and then some, probably just going through everything they're doing. This week, we've been hearing a lot of scary rumors about major firings or rifts that are coming to the State Department. They were supposed to come tomorrow. Maybe now it's next week. We don't really know. But what's the point of all of this? The only people benefiting from the dismantling of the government are a handful of billionaires, and they're not hiding their plans either. They're dismantling the government to sell it off to the highest bidder, and they're consolidating control because they believe that their wealth gives them the right to take your democracy, because they believe that they can do it better for you. But what they're really doing, in fact, is really just trying to quickly take us from a democracy to an oligarchy. And so how do we stop them? We saw pretty immediately that the administration went for federal sector unions. They understand, maybe even more than the public does really right now, that our unions are the most effective way to stop them from dismantling our democracy. We've been using the courts and will continue to, but I think it's become pretty clear right now that the courts alone can't save us. But if we look through history, we've had so many of these moments that felt, and maybe even were, let's be honest, hopeless. But there's one thread that runs through every one of those victories that we have coming out of those moments, and that's the power of solidarity. And the labor movement played a front and center role in so many of those victories. So what I hope is that in this moment, we can finally force the end of a long-term billionaire-backed agenda to weaken unions in this country. And to do that, we at the Fund, we're bringing together unionists from different unions to work together, but this has to extend beyond the federal sector. It has to bring together public and private sector unions, community groups, the people who are impacted by the work we do. We have to do this together. And if you're thinking, okay, but how in the world do I help do that? How could I possibly help do that? It's a really simple answer. And it's just this: show up everywhere. Plan actions, convince your friends to go to actions, convince people you've just met to go to actions, everyone. Every right we have in this country, it's a right that we have had, that workers and many people have fought for, and unfortunately, all too often, that some have even died for. As federal workers, we really appreciate your support, and we are here to say that we're ready to use this moment to come together as workers with all of you in solidarity across sectors and across the country. For too long, we've let the side that wants to take our rights away convince us that we can't make a difference. But every one of us knows that there's nothing out there that's more powerful than the chants of our collective voices and the drumbeat of our steps on the streets. I look forward to seeing all of you out there together with me soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Elisa, for all you've done as a federal worker and for the leadership that you and so many other federal workers are showing right now. Our final speaker is going to speak to the need to organize tens of millions more workers into resistance and fighting for labor rights, for immigrant rights, for civil rights, and for our democracy. I want to welcome Lynn Hua from Organized Power in Numbers to tell us more about what they are doing to fight for workers over billionaires. Lynn?
Thank you, Alex. And hi, everyone. My name is Lynn, and I'm joining from Sacramento, California today. I want to take some time to thank my representative, Senator Padilla, again for his courage and for modeling real leadership in a time when we need it most. And again, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight and for all of the amazing work you have done. I'm the National Digital Organizer here at Organized Power Numbers, and we combine true and tried organizing with top-of-the-line data and digital tools to build power in the South and the Southwest to level up the campaigns that reach millions of workers. Many of these top-line data and digital tools have been used by the corporations, right, to market things to us. We're using it for the sake of organizing and to mobilize millions of people. We're headquartered in Albuquerque with our team rooted across Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, North Carolina, and Southern California, alongside groups building power locally. And the reason why we focus within this region is because the Sun Belt region is home to some of the fastest growing cities and largest concentrations of working class people, especially diverse working class communities and immigrant communities. And these corporations and billionaires have always seen this region as a prime for exploitation because wages are kept low, labor protections are weak, and political power has been historically suppressed through voter protection and anti-union laws. They're pouring money into this region to extract wealth while blocking all of our efforts to organize, both in the streets and in the workplace. But we have seen it for what it is. It's a power grab for them to profit off of our community's labor and the natural resources that the Sun Belt offers. The Workers Over Billionaires campaign is really a growing campaign to build working class power to stand up to not only the exploitation that is happening in the Sun Belt and all over the country, but also to stand up to these anti-constitutional acts on our working class and immigrant communities. We're organizing neighborhood by neighborhood to take on corporate greed, protecting our communities, and fighting back against billionaire control of our economy and our democracy, as well as all of these anti-constitutional acts under this new administration. And right now, fear and isolation are paralyzing our communities, which is really what those in power want, right? They want us to fight each other. They're pitting workers against each other, just as the capitalists have always done. They have the money, but really what we have to remember at the end of the day is that we have each other, and no amount of money that they can pull together can organize and really, really take us down. And when we come together, we are stronger than anything money can buy, right? Our strategy is to fight back by building collective power rooted in connection, in conversation, and in action. And that all starts with talking to people and building relationships in neighborhoods, communities, and workplaces. We cannot go by party lines right now. We have to make these connections with each other. And since the mass mobilizations on May Day, I know that folks have felt this shift. I feel it. I feel it. In the midst of all of the chaos that is being thrown at us, communities all over the country have come together to defend and protect each other. And that's what it's going to take. Since May Day, we have reached out to over 2.5 million working class people across the Sun Belt region and mobilize over 5,000 volunteers into specialized teams to build relationships with their neighbors, canvass businesses to share crucial know your rights information to workers and businesses as all of these raids are happening, send text messages, make hundreds of calls, coordinate direct services, and so much more. We are capable of so much when we come together. And we started with what we have, and we've seen how people have showed up, how they've stepped into leadership roles and showed up for Workers Over Billionaires. And if you're ready to take action now, please text WOB to 58910. Again, text WOB to 58910. We have a mass organizing call on Wednesday, July 9th, and I want to be sure that you're there to get plugged in. We are organizing by the thousands and building the machine that no money can buy because we are the millions that no money can buy, right? And you know how I know the momentum we're building is working? The billionaires couldn't even stop Zoran Mamdani's historic grassroots people-powered campaign from winning the Democratic mayoral primary race against millions of dollars, millions of corporate dollars, right? We are winning. Many of us aren't even in New York right now, but a win is a win, right? We are winning and we have to keep going. We have an ambitious goal to reach 10 million people by Labor Day, and we need your help if we're truly going to turn out thousands of people into the streets. The billionaires have the millions to buy our government, but they need us more than we need them. And when we come together in solidarity, we take that power back. So if you're ready to build power with us, again, please text WOB to 58910 and then let us know in the chat, workers over billionaires. Let's do this, everybody.